Okay. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to stop in and do a quick video on our Tesla Model Y. So it's a 2022 Model Y Performance. Um, hey, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. Okay, back to the video. Um, our Tesla Model Y 2022. It's got like 11,000 miles on it, I think. Um, but I hope I'm doing this because I think it'll be helpful for people. I get a ton of questions. How much does it cost to charge? How long does it take to charge? Um, just questions like that from people about it that aren't familiar with Teslas or haven't done research. So I think this will be helpful to put a real life example of a road trip, a recap of a road trip, a very long road trip in our Tesla. So what this is going to consist of is I'm going to talk about the differences. I'm going to compare it to a hybrid car, a Toyota Prius. Now I know some people probably would not substitute a Model Y for a Toyota Prius, but that's the comparison that I have and that I'm going to be doing right now. So we're going to talk about the cost to drive the same route, the time it takes to drive the same route. And that's really the two things that I'm going to focus on. I'll touch on some little stuff at the end of the video, but those are the two major things, and hopefully we'll answer a bunch of questions that people have. Because I know I had them before I got a Tesla. So now that I've got the experience, I'm going to do it and hopefully be beneficial to somebody looking for a Tesla or on the fence about, hey, is this going to be beneficial to me, yada, yada, yada. So let me give you a little back story for our Tesla. So it's my wife's car. She drives it back and forth to work. She drives 70-ish miles a day or so. So I will say for our scenario, we got it for daily commuting and it works great. The Tesla really shines when you charge at home, and the convenience of not having to go to the fuel up is just amazing. So works great for our situation. Everybody's situation is different. This is ours, and I'm sharing our situation. So back on track. So first comparison, Toyota Prius, Tesla Model Y Performance. We're going to talk about the cost to drive the same route. The route was about 1,300 miles one way. So out and back was about 2,600 miles. And the cost to drive the Prius was, I think it was around 170 bucks. That was a month earlier than I drove the route with the Model Y. So around 170 bucks for the Toyota Prius, I think. Let me confirm that. Pause the video. Okay. So I don't have the exact figures for what it costs to drive the Prius out, but it was around, we'll say 170, 190. We'll go up high, we'll round high, say 190. I know it was less than $200. So we'll say 190 to 170, somewhere in that ballpark, right? And that was out and back. The Tesla cost around 300, maybe right under 300 bucks to drive out and back from what it costs to charge. We used all Tesla superchargers. We stopped probably 7 or 8 times on the way out and back. So we stopped quite a bit, which was also quite a bit more than the Prius on the trip. So I think 3 times maybe, because you can get like 500 miles to a tank on that, because it gets in the 50s miles per gallon. So with the Prius, it costs less by a decent amount, at least 100 bucks less, which is a third of the total cost of the cost to drive a Tesla out there and back. You stop, we'll say 3 times with the Prius, you stop 7 or 8 times with the Tesla. So that's kind of the variance from a gas-powered hybrid to all-electric Tesla, right? So that's a big question that I get. On to the next topic, we're going to talk about the how long it takes to charge. So, and that will be connected to how long the trip takes. So I'll start off with, everybody knows how long it takes to fill up a tank of gas, right? Obviously, my truck with a 36-gallon tank is going to take longer than a Prius with a 12-gallon or 13-gallon tank, whatever it is. But the variance in that time is still very minimal, right? So you're talking minutes, very few minutes. We'll say 10 minutes to fill my truck up. We'll say 5 minutes to fill a Prius up. That's over what it would take. But for time's sake, that's what we're going to do. So even if you take a truck and a Prius, say you stop 3 times with each, say you take 15 minutes to put gas in the vehicle for the Prius and 30 minutes to put gas in the truck. You're still very, very small amount of time difference, right? That's just strictly filling it up. That's not going to the bathroom, whatever. But you get what I'm saying. Like, the point is, whether you have a truck that gets terrible gas mileage or a car that gets really good gas mileage, the time that it takes to fill up that tank, very minimal relative to the total trip. So you'll understand why I'm saying that here in a few minutes, a few seconds probably. So that's the baseline that I'm comparing the Tesla to. So for the Tesla, remember I said we stopped 7 or 8 times. We stopped anywhere from 15 minutes to 50 minutes to charge. So, all right, I'm back. You guys won't notice the difference, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So I was recording this, recorded it, and then I lost one section of it, and the whole video didn't make sense without that one section. So I'm back, inserting that section now. So I was talking about the time that it takes to fill up the gasoline vehicles versus the time it takes to charge the Tesla, right? So gasoline, you fill up a Prius 5 minutes, right? It takes you to fill up from empty probably. That time, granted, you need to go into the bathroom. You can run into the bathroom when you fill up for 5 minutes. Get back, we'll say a rest stop is about 15 minutes. And you're not going to take that 15 minutes every rest stop if you're just going from point A to point B, right? You're just going to fill up, get on the road, yada, yada, yada. So fine and dandy. The Tesla, the average stop time, we stopped from anywhere from like 15 minutes to about 50 minutes. I would say the average time that it takes was about 30, 35 minutes. And that's strictly charging. You have to be there for that long to charge. Some of the stops, which you'll hear later in the video, some of the stops don't have conveniences like food or restroom. So sometimes you have to actually run across the road, or granted, some places you can walk to them, but some you have to drive to them. So that kind of rolls into the time it took for the trip. So average stop for a gasoline car, we'll say 15 minutes. A Prius, if you don't have to stop and go to the bathroom, you can get from point A to point B in about 3 stops. Add a couple more on because you need to stop for the restroom, whatever. But the Tesla, we had to stop 7 or 8 times each way, and average that out to 30 minutes a shot. That's a significant amount of time. And I'll just get right into it. The time that it took to drive the Prius out or one way was about 21 hours. And that includes a couple hours of sleeping, right? So straight shot, you're looking at 19, 20 hours. Plus an hour and a hour to 2 hours, you're looking at 21 hours, basically, roundabout. That's one way. Now, looking at the Tesla, it was about 25 hours one way. So one way, you're 4 hours more in a Tesla than you are in a gasoline car. we did not stay at a hotel. We slept at the charging stops overnight. So the charging stops we had, I set my alarm for that long and woke up and just took off. So we didn't have to stay at a stop any longer than we needed to. And so we slept a few times, about two hours, probably, yeah, about 2-3 hours overnight at the charging stops. And that was about, you know, it was spread out, but that was about the same my dad slept on the way when he drove the Prius back. So, you know, apples to apples, as close as we can get it there. Just a little bit different way of getting from point A to point B, just different way to get there, right? So, you know, that overall trip time, you've got 4 hours more one way. That's a total of 8 hours extra. You're looking at 50 hours drive time in a Tesla Model Y Performance versus about 42 hours in a Prius. So the time is significantly different. And there's really not any way to shorten that, right? You can get a little bit better probably range, but the charging networks are they're not everywhere, right? So you have limited places to stop and charge. So even if you can get another 20 miles, it doesn't really matter because you can't get to the next charger that's 60 miles away. So you need to stop where you need to stop. And that is what it is, right? So, you know, some things you can probably change. Time that it takes to charge is not one of those. Right now, it is what it is. But that's the real life, you know. That's the real life, you know. So I wanted to throw this part back in there because it got cut out. So I'll let you finish the video with the original video now. That doesn't make sense, but nice to see you again. Whoa, okay, I'm back. Had to take a call. So last part of the video, I want to talk about the time, not the time, but the charging stops. So some of the charging stops were at convenience stores. Some of them were at shopping centers. A couple of them were at nothing. It was basically just a charging stop. There was no facilities, nowhere to get food or drinks or anything. And that's really like, I mean, I knew that was going to be what it was going in, but I mean, to be honest, like, if I had to give my two biggest complaints about the trip, it would be the extra time it took to charge, which both of these I went in knowingly. So I'm just pointing out the experience, right? It would be the extra time it took to charge, and then the facilities. In most cases, there was availability to get either a restroom or food in walking distance, but there was a couple stops that there was no walking to food or restroom. It was just strictly charging, and that was it. And that was, you know, that's another thing that adds more time. If you have to stop and eat, and one of these charging stops is where you have to stop, you got to stop there, charge, and then you got to go somewhere and eat. So you're doubling your time by that, you know. So I know electric's new. The infrastructure is not fully built out. They're going to continue working on it, right? But for some people who aren't electric vehicle owners and they don't realize that, hopefully this helps them out if they're looking for a real life example. So I'll end the video with the Tesla. Like the trip was great. Like it was super comfortable. Loved driving it. We don't have full self-driving. We didn't opt to do that because it didn't make sense for our scenario. My wife didn't like it. She prefers to drive the car herself, so we did not pay for that. So we have autopilot, and that was a huge benefit on the way out there, right? Because it was all interstate, and you just throw the autopilot on and go. You know, I only had a few instances where the phantom braking came into play. Overall, great trip. No complaints about the Tesla and its drive or the trip at all. outside of just the extra time to charge and the facilities at the chargers were lacking ultimately. But yeah, that hopefully that helps give people a real life comparison of what it costs to drive a Tesla on a trip, what the extra charging time is going to be. Yeah, and I mean, granted, I know people that the Toyota Prius isn't going to be their choice to switch if they're going to get a Model Y or a Toyota Prius, but that's the ones we had. Um, and hopefully that gives you a good idea. So, if you found that helpful, I'm going to continue to do stuff like this. So hit that subscribe button, share, like, comment. Tell me if it was helpful or not in the comments. Oh yeah, have a good day.